Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype here on your Wednesday, November 6, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're tracking here for today as we're looking at another round of severe weather coming into Friday as we head toward the end of this week with the storm system pulling out of the southern Rockies here. We are going to be talking about Hurricane Raphael. It actually strengthened to a Category 2 hurricane overnight as it's getting ready to make a landfall on Cuba today and then move into the Gulf of Mexico. We'll talk about its track, which has changed a little bit. And then we're going to talk about pattern shift questions or not on that. We'll look at the latest model data on that as well. Now, before we get into this report, I do want to thank all the new subscribers to the channel. And if you can help us get 10 new subscribers today, I would appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you learn on future content. And if you like what you see with the report, please leave a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up as it does help with that almighty YouTube algorithm. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what's tracking here with our satellite imagery. Now, we should make a little transition there. We got a decaying front here. Starting to see the fringe impacts there on the satellite there down toward Cuba. That is Raphael. We'll take a more detailed look at that in a second. Here's our next storm system, this little cutoff low feature that's going to kind of swing on out. And that's going to be setting up that potential for some active severe weather here across portions of Texas as we head in a little bit later in the week. And a little bit quieter out here on the West Coast as well. So let's look at our current surface map here. We are getting some snows here across portions of the Rockies into Denver as well, heading back into areas of New Mexico and into Arizona. Again, we got some rains here scattering from the northeast all the way back down here toward the mid-south and down to the south. Going to get some much-needed rains here across the southeast, across Alabama, Georgia, here a little bit later today as well. Now, as we take a look at our current watches and warnings, there's an expectation of some heavy rains here. We're going to see flash flood watches up here across portions of central Georgia, basically from about Augusta, heading on just south of Columbus, Georgia there. Got some fog in the middle of the country, and here's that winter storm warnings out here across New Mexico, and of course, obviously here into Colorado out there. We've got some windy conditions down here into Southern California as well. And that's some of that brown out there with the wind advisories. All right, let's go ahead and talk about our hurricane. Yeah, we can see the eye here. I'm using the Key West radar way up there, but it's been showing indications of some intensification before landfall. The water temperatures down here are very warm indeed here into the around 86, 87 degrees. So it's very warm. Continuing as a Category 2. Looking at the satellite, it wouldn't shock me if this thing made a run at Cat 3 before making crossing into Cuba here. We'll see what happens here. But currently continue to move up here toward the north and west at about 14. Then we're going to start making a turn. And that forecast track, boy, it gets a little crazy. We'll talk about that in more detail here in just a second. Our weather city of the day, I went ahead and picked Key West. Why not? It's not looking bad there right now, but they are looking at cloudy conditions. They could be seeing some rain today, rain pretty likely. We'll see a high temperature today of 82 degrees. And if you'd like to nominate your city as the weather city of the day and you know of a good webcam in your area or on YouTube, please place that link down below and we'll use it for a future broadcast. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the latest from the Storms Prediction Center as we're going to take a look at what we're expecting thunderstorms over the next several days here. So right now we're looking at a general thunderstorm threat here for just about everybody, except for one little location. Of course, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about the Keys down that way because the fact we do have a system down here. So we could see maybe an isolated tornado or two down in that zone down there with some of those outer bands from Raphael kind of coming into that area. So let's go ahead and break this down by the category for today. And obviously the hot zone is going to be down there across South Florida, running about 5% down there across the Florida Keys, lower Keys, looking at that potential. But the rest of the country looking pretty quiet here on your Wednesday. All right, what about your day 2 outlook? Let's go into Thursday here. Your day 2 outlook, we do start to see that, again, that severe weather coming out here, going into Texas, going into Thursday, and then going into Friday as well. So we got a couple days of activity there. And we got a general thunderstorm threat here across portions of the southeast. How about as we head into Friday? Well, we're going to continue that severe weather threat there across portions of Texas, just a marginal risk, so it's not too terribly bad here across central areas. I know these folks down here in central, south central parts of the states are looking for a little bit of a break. They've been kind of raked with a lot of severe weather here, obviously over the last week or so, and obviously a lot of recovery efforts going on there as well, especially across portions of Oklahoma. All right, so let's talk about the excessive rainfall. That is in the cards here for today, especially across their areas there into Georgia. You can see we've got actually got a moderate chance of some flooding here across central Georgia. Obviously, thus the flash flood watches that are up for that area right now as we were looking at that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next couple of days, see how that's going to, if that's going to change much here. As we take a look at our day 2 outlook here, we've got a couple of regions we're going to watch there. Seeing obviously with that system coming out of the Rockies, we're going to see, again, slight risk of some heavy rains and some flooding there across Texas and Oklahoma. And we'll continue that there into your Thursday as well into South Carolina and portions of Georgia for the day 2. How about as we go into day 3, let's take a look at that as I clear that out. It looks like we shift that a little bit toward the middle of the country. That's in response to that upper level low. It's going to kind of spin out here into the plains. So areas from Oklahoma and Kansas will be seeing, again, some heavy rain potential there, but at least the severe potential should stay down toward the south, down toward Texas, and even that's just a margin risk. But we are looking at some heavy rains, and that area has seen a lot of rain, obviously, over the last week or so with a couple of storm systems there. All right, let's talk about the tropics. Let's go ahead and get into this as we've got a couple things we're going to talk about. Obviously, we got another area of disturbed weather back behind Raphael. Not too concerned about that one right now, only showing about a 30% chance of development. But Raphael, that continues to be the big player here for today as it continues to move to the northwest at some 14 miles per hour. Again, top sustained winds currently sitting at 100 miles per hour. It does appear maybe a little bit of burst of strength maybe moving in for that system as it gets ready to cross into Cuba here later today. Here looking at our satellite imagery, there's our storm looking very healthy indeed. You got a nice little outflow there on all quads there of this system. And of course, we're watching this other area disturbed weather. It looks like it's fighting some wind shear in that area, so I'm not overly concerned about it just yet, but we're going to watch that closely to see if anything develops with that area of disturbed weather there. Here's the closer satellite imagery of the system, and you noticed here as we're looking at the last few images, definitely starting to see some semblance of an eye starting to form right in there. So we'll see if it makes a little burst of strength, that maybe make a run at 105, 110, maybe strengthens a little bit before it makes landfall, because it is some very, very warm water temperatures in this area as it makes the cross into Cuba. Now, once it gets to the Gulf of Mexico, the further north it gets, the Gulf of Mexico water temperatures are definitely on the cooler side here. Now, I wanted to show this. I showed this video camera yesterday. I wanted to show it again today. Boy, did they get a lot of heavy rain and flooding across Jamaica. Look at all the debris that kind of got bunched up against that bridge there. So haven't heard too much as far as damage reports there in Jamaica. But again, I just noticed all that debris on that bridge. So I wanted to show that once again here for this morning. Let's look at the ensemble models here. And boy, they got a little bit crazy. What's driving this train, again, is this high pressure ridge out here off the east coast here. So what's happening is we're seeing the official track still taking it this way, but boy, we've got a lot of models now just want to take it this way and kind of bury it down into the Bay of Campeche. So, and that's what the European model is starting to go. And so I'm anticipating the system's going to kind of hold its own for a couple days, probably maintain a Category 2 strength for maybe another 48 hours or so. Then a steady weakening, and even the American GFS model is getting a little bit showing that we're going to see some changes with this system as well. So let's go ahead and talk about the model data on this. We'll break this down. We'll first take a look at the European model, and of course this is the one I typically tend to favor. So we're in pretty good agreement. We're going to cross Cuba here, and then we're going to head to the west, and then this thing really starts to take a left turn here and just goes right down to the Bay of Campeche, just kind of settles into Mexico there. So that's going into this weekend. So it makes a hard left. That's what, again, some of those ensemble models were showing there, and then kind of burying itself down that way. Let's go take a look at the American GFS. It's a little bit different. It brings it across the same general location, continues west. So pretty good agreement here for the next 72 hours, but it stays more northerly. And then it just kind of sits here off the coast and pretty much just fizzles right on out. So because of wind shear and everything else, it's just kind of whip it down and beat it down and just kind of dissolves there in the Gulf of Mexico. So we got a couple of solutions to watch here. I definitely wouldn't say we're out of the woods here for anyone along the Gulf Coast, as we could still see a potential tropical storm. Not expecting a hurricane. Tropical storm maybe making landfall somewhere along the Gulf Coast. I'm not willing to raise the white flag and say, no, we're done with it yet. So we got a few days to watch this. But right now, I'm feeling pretty optimistic that this thing will probably stay out in the Gulf of Mexico and dissipate right now. So let's take a look at that jet stream forecast. You remember yesterday, on your update, we were telling you about a potential pattern shift. It looks like we're not going to see quite as oppressive pattern shift as what we were looking at here. Still looking at that cutoff low. This is that feature that is going to be setting off that weather here across the southwest with that low. Notice the main jet stream here is staying off here toward the north. A fairly active subtropical jet here coming across the south as well. with that upper level low. What's going to happen is that upper level low, which we thought was going to pick up our tropical system, it's just going to get too far away. It's going to start moving up toward the north here and toward the middle of the country as we head towards Saturday. So this is late in the day on your Saturday with that low pressure system there. And you kind of got a little bit of a split flow here a little bit. So the jet streams are definitely not phased. That means they're not kind of working in tandem together here as we go into this upcoming weekend. And then as we go into next week, we got another system diving down here. You see the jet stream here, not overly dynamic here, with another system that'll kick out some more precipitation out here in the middle of the country. So as we go ahead and watch this, as we go forward, again, that trough shifts to the east, but notice it's not as sharp. We're not getting as big a ridging here with this high pressure here back off toward the west. So we're going to cool things down, but it's just not going to be as dramatic as what was showing yesterday. So I'm looking for model consistency here to see what happens with this. And as a result of what we're seeing here on the latest European, that kind of flattens out, we got a pretty zonal flow here. So with this kind of flow here across the country, the cold air is going to be locked up here into Canada and not really kind of diving down just south just yet. So pattern shift still waiting to be seen at this point. Now let's go ahead and take it through with looking at the precipitation mode here on the data. Again, we're watching the tropical system out here in the Gulf of Mexico here on Thursday, kind of heading out here with a Category 2 hurricane. And then it's going to start to weaken as we go gets further north into the middle of the Gulf. There's our low. Again, we're going to be watching those thunderstorms here on Thursday and again on Friday across areas of Oklahoma and Texas as that low begins to pull on out slowly. Again, heavy rains. So again, that's going to be a problem, especially there on Friday across portions of Kansas as that system begins to slowly pull on out. And it'll drift to the north. We'll get some rains across areas of Missouri and Arkansas as we go into throughout the day on your Saturday. And this kind of fades out, kind of washes itself out as we go through time, as will the tropical system. This thing down here starts to bury itself. It starts to dissipate. What's left of that system begins to pull up into the Great Lakes and into the Northeast as we head towards Sunday night and into Monday. So we're talking about the 10th and going into the 11th there on that system. And then as we go and take this on out, we'll wait for our next system to come on out here as we watch our next system coming out off the west coast, and it dives out through Colorado. That'll be setting up our next storm system here as it pulls out. Boom, we get some showers and storms. I'm not sure if we're going to get severe on this just yet. We'll watch how this verifies out. This is going into Tuesday night as we see the rain here from Iowa searching back toward Texas and Oklahoma as we go in toward the 12th and into the 13th of November. And then finally taking this out, this does push off toward the east. Hey, we do get some rains finally breaking down here across the southeast. Again, that's good to see this progressive pattern start to change a little bit after an extended dry period there across a lot of areas of the southeast in my neck of the woods. We are seeing a little bit of the colder air, but it's going this way and not diving south. So unfortunately, not going to see any real significant cold chill down in the east. And again, with that zonal flow, that cold air is going to be locked up here, and it's going to be staying to the north. So it's going to stay to the north, and we're going to stay pretty warm here across a lot of the south as we go through the next 10 days here on the latest European model. Now, as far as precipitation is concerned, again, we're going to get some much-needed rain there across the south. This is that initial round of heavy rain here across the Carolinas and Georgia. That's what's left to the front there. And this moisture, of course, is where our tropical system is going to stay out there in the Gulf. And we're getting some pretty good mountain snows out here across areas of Colorado and New Mexico, obviously for the next day or so, as that low is kind of cut off and going to be kind of slow to kick on out, very slowly. But then it'll extend that rain out into Texas and into areas of Kansas and Oklahoma as that slowly spreads on out and moves off toward the east here as they take this out to fruition. Obviously, you've got two systems that are going on top of each other. So next 10 days, staying dry out here in Southern California and the Southwest, but a lot of the country getting some pretty decent precipitation. Maybe a little dry up here in the northern tier just a little bit, but at least we're looking a little wet out there across the country. Finally, look at H850 millibar levels. We track the cold air. Again, that blue and the green, that is your below normal temperatures. You see this kind of stuff, you know you're talking about some warm air here in the northeast and much colder out here in the west with below normal temperatures at the 5,000 foot level. So easy to track this stuff at that level. So you notice we're going to kind of hold this off here through Friday with the below normal temperatures with that cutoff low across the Four Corners region. Warm here across the northern plains. Again, most of the east, except for this little cool shot here across portions of the northeast going into late in the day on your Friday. Just a brief cool down there because that's going to move out here pretty quickly as that moves out. And again, most of the country showing a trend of above normal temperatures really going into next week. And that'll continue there. Although, again, as you look at going in toward Tuesday, looking at a cold shot here again, briefly hitting the northeast once again. Things start to cool down once again out here in the west as we go toward Tuesday. So a brief warm up in the west, then it stays cool once again down there. And then as we go toward the end of this, looks like we start to see things here warm up in the middle of the country, trying to cool things down here across the northwest out into the high plains. But again, the trend for most of the country is for it to be running above normal. So let's compare this with the latest look from the Climate Prediction Center. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. As you can see here, we're looking at below normal temperatures out here in the west, warm in the east. Again, this is from Veterans Day, the 11th through the 15th. And they pretty much hold it true here from the 13th to the 19th. I think the main reason why they didn't change this, or going to change it, even if it was going to get colder or warmer, is model consistency. Again, we're not getting any model consistency beyond about 7 days here for right now. So the next 7 days, pretty set, but we'll see how the trends are. I think once we get that hurricane or what's left of it out of the way and kind of get a figure of what, if that's going to have any kind of impact at all on the global pattern, which it doesn't look like it will, we'll get a better idea of what it's going to look like a little bit later in the week. I still trending. Still think as we get toward the end of November, we'll get a substantial pattern shift. This can't hold forever. We're going to get a shift. Usually about 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to get a shift, and I think we're going to get colder temperatures in the east as we wrap up the month of November. Precipitation-wise, as we were seeing, we're a lot of areas here getting some decent rains, except for the southwest a little bit. So near normal, I guess I would say that for this time of year across the southwest from the 11th to the 15th. And again, still staying with a fairly active pattern with the rain chances for most of the country. So at least the dry patterns that we were dealing with for obviously most of October and even parts of November starting to evaporate as we're getting further and further into the fall season. All right, so we got a couple of days of some severe weather we got to watch out there across the lower plains. It doesn't appear that we're going to have a major outbreak there. And of course, we're going to be watching as our Hurricane Raphael is going to go by the Keys for today. Could see some water spouts, maybe some heavy rains there impacting areas of the Keys. But once it moves out into the Gulf, for right now, not anticipating any major problems for the Gulf Coast just yet. Not going to raise the contagion. Okay, you up there in the northern Gulf Coast, you're out of the woods just yet. But the trend is looking less likely that it'll have an impact on your weather. All right, that's your update for now. If you guys appreciate this report, I would appreciate your help in supporting the channel. Go ahead and subscribe, man. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. Give me that thumbs up. Leave me a comment as we fight the almighty YouTube algorithm. That thing's a beast, but we fight it every day. All right, that's your update for now. You guys take it easy. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, guys.